Good morning, your Talk Shop time just after 6 a.m. in the Laramie Plains Civic Center. This morning's show brought to you in part by Chano's Village and H&R Block, along with Perkins Restaurant and Bakery. Long down Grand, the UPS store. We appreciate each one of their support and that of the Benton Rusty and Range Community Insurance. Those individual entities are ones we hope you will support with your support. We appreciate you listening and tuning in to this morning's show. This is Opportunity 1. We have 6 a.m. slot, and it's filled today with City Councilman and WyoTech instructor Brandon Newman. Good morning, Mr. Newman.
Good morning. How are you?
I am good, alive and well. You know, there's nothing like the hot facility in West Laramie that is a fire station. If you're going to have a hot spot, might it be a city's most flashy fire station?
Yeah, that's a nice building over there.
It was a nice facility.
A little toasty.
It was a little warm in the meeting room, but I'm not sure that the capacity might have met fire marshal standards for the room. But with public safety officials present and doors wide open and windows wide opening and all of that, a lot happening. For those of you just joining us, good morning. Good morning to the Talk Shop. We are in Studio 255 at the Laramie Plains Civic Center, and we follow yesterday's Fifth Tuesday session. It was the second Fifth Tuesday effort of the City of Laramie to be in dialogue with citizens and citizens with council members. And 8 of 9 City Council members were in attendance, and I understand there was a medical concern for William Bowling not in attendance, and we wish the best to Councilman Bowling in whatever endeavor drew him away, because as expected, it was well attended and stronger attendance than the first work session that included a Fifth Tuesday effort. There was an adjustment in the first one from a Tuesday to a Wednesday to accommodate Albany County government information public meetings that were held by Assessor Matthews, Treasurer Tracy Fletcher, and Clerk Kayla White. So love the interaction. And there's nothing. I said this in a summary right last night. When you have citizens born and raised in the Laramie area or new to the area but have been there decades, some of these 7-8 decades of experience in the community, it's a good time to listen. It's a great time to hear the wisdom of experience talk. And it's absolutely an opportunity to learn. And I can honestly say, personally, that was my approach to last night. It's a 6 p.m. meeting. It went till shortly after 7:30, somewhere there, and then proceeded outside and carried on, I don't know for how long, at least another 15-20 minutes that I stuck around with some closing opportunities with individuals in the community that showed up that you don't always see at a city council meeting. And I don't cover 100% of them, but I do attend over 90% of them. And if I miss one, I often go back and make time, windshield time or whatever, to at least review the audio of the individual meeting. Regular sessions and work sessions I find equally important, because there's a number of topics that might get discussed in one and not the other in full or in less quantity, and to do it keeps it all in a continuous linear fashion for me in my mind. And it's really important to catalog all this in your mind as well as what's on video on YouTube, which brings up an opportunity. I don't know, was the entirety recorded last night? To your
I would
knowledge?
assume because it was all the way the ordinance or resolutions written, any question and answer time should be on Zoom.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure it was all recorded.
So the importance of that is that you can Google search City of Laramie City Council meeting live stream, and it's going to bring up a series of dates for you to look. If you look up yesterday's date, you say I want June 29th, 2025, City of Laramie City Council meeting. It's going to bring up last night's 6 p.m. meeting as soon as it's uploaded. And I find that extremely valuable. As I went into last night, I reviewed a few of the videos of prior sessions, and they were valuable to me, very valuable to me to review. And I attended many of them. I think I attended all of them in December, the sunset month of the 2024 City Council. You were on that City Council, Brandon, and as a member of the 2024 counselor team, where do you stand here this morning? What brings you in to the talk shop?
Just a chat, see if anybody had any questions. So call in, text if you do. I don't remember the number.
Our phone number 307-460-3087. If you would like to weigh in this morning, we're available. And Councilman Newman, you found yourself on December 3rd in the minority. Third reading, December 3rd, and I don't recall if it was a work session or a regular meeting, but on the agenda, about item 15 on the agenda was the surface water management program. And in the December 3rd meeting, it was led by Mayor Brian Harrington. It was attended by Vice Mayor Sharon Cumby and yourself, along with Pat Gabriel, Jane Pierce, Aaron O'Doherty, Joe Shumway, and forgive me, I'm missing
Andy Somerville.
Andy Somerville on Zoom, and in that attendance, 9 were present, and you had a lot to vote on. Do you recall the December 3rd meeting?
I don't. I recall that vote.
Yeah. Yeah. What vote stands out for you on the December 3rd?
It would just be the surface water, because we've talked about it a lot. So
well, the vote on the surface water management
6-3
came up, and it was 6-4, 3 against. And the 3 against stood yourself, along with Councilman Joe Shumway, and at the time April Somerville on City Council in that group. And what were your reasons to vote against I think it was agenda item 15 on December 3rd?
One, I didn't think it was polished enough, and I think with the turnout yesterday, I think we're seeing that, right? There's adjustments that need to be made. I know there's an appeal process, but how many people are going to jump online and actually appeal that?
How many
process?
citizens should have to?
In my opinion,
I mean, how much should
3% is in the reason for
that's
that.
a fat number too.
I
mean,
I think there are like some in where my mind goes is my property, and I'll use my property as an example. We live in a small plot, kind of we're in whoever did the LiDAR, our consultants, us as council, whoever probably should have
do they pay for the margin of error?
No, I'm sure my neighbor probably
No, I
doesn't
mean
even know.
the consultant. Does the
Yeah,
consultant
I
provide
doubt
the
it.
the
Yeah, I
difference?
doubt that.
No.
But like some of those need to be polished. Thinking about the fairgrounds paying $4,000 a month. We probably should have looked at that a little bit more. That's kind of like saying, and this is kind of harsh but to the point.
We want to close our.
Hey, 4-H, 4-H, you got to go,
Goodbye.
right? Oh, you guys like the rodeo there? We're gonna have to raise even more money than we raise now. Those kinds of things, right? And then looking at it from business standpoint of the university or Wyotech or any of the business owners I talked to last night, that's a position. You just cost me an employee, or you just made my rates for my products go up, X% to help cover this, because some people. There was one last night that said her profit margin was only 30%. Well, now it's only 25%, and trying to figure out what she needs to cut now to make her business work. So there was just a bunch that I didn't agree with. I know it's a fee, right? Because there are 3 ways that the city could bring this in. 2 of them are a tax. 1 of them is a fee. We decided to go with and when I say we, the city decided and council decided with the vote to go with the fee. To me, and me personally, this is Brandon talking, not Brandon, the council we're talking. This is a tax. It's no different. All 3 doing the same thing, other than one goes to an enterprise fund, the other 2 do not.
Well, you're not alone in you're not alone in your calling it a tax. Micah Richardson on December 3rd referred to it specifically as a tax. Talked about it being not something that anyone reveled in. It wasn't the ideal to impose a tax on the citizens. But loosely paraphrased, her view was it wasn't good to push the matter forward, and therefore she was supporting the adoption of the surface water management program with her yes vote. And that night she called it a tax. And I think the public views it as a tax.
Very much so.
And when you see it on your utility bill, and it's not perfect, it's not even close. It was admittedly flawed going in. Now, on December 3rd, item 15 was the adoption of the surface water management program. Now, an important note, I want to give credit to 2 council members, in addition to yourself, who raised very important questions on 3rd reading. The first, Joe Shumway. Joe Shumway, in his comments, acknowledges to Mayor Harrington that evening he was not able to attend the 2nd reading, and he apologized for asking a couple questions. The essential piece of his question came down to, first, in 150 years, the citizens of Laramie have not paid for surface water drainage. December 3rd, the City of Laramie had higher priorities than surface water drainage. And his were streets and parking. He acknowledged further that there was certainly a priority to surface water management as an issue, important issue as well. And then his segment was broken with some other comments that I'll get to in a moment. But he asked a question of city staff that went unanswered on third reading, and that was this: what does it take for the citizens to vote on this matter versus us? And that's the essential piece. What should put this in front of the voters instead of us? And that was immediately followed by I think some clarification by Pat Gabriel at the time came out, and Pat Gabriel gave his estimation that it would be a specific purpose tax consideration, which I believe is a ballot referendum terminology piece that's utilized. That was affirmed by Janine Jordan, and the order here, I may be out of order, but Erin O'Doherty importantly injected that she and Joe Shumway had attended, witnessed a conversation by a tailor who I believe was referenced as a prior city service citizen themselves. And Taylor's comment was, we are elected, and as elected officials, we have tough decisions to make, and we shouldn't push this off. This is a tough decision, and we need to have the courage, Erin O'Doherty stated, we need to have the courage in this quote to make this decision. And the sooner we make it, the less impact it will have going forward on our children and so on and so forth, the future. So in that, the most compelling thing to me on third reading is that Joe Shumway's question and Pat Gabriel's clarification and the ears of 9 city council members were absent a definitive, clear guidance from the City of Laramie City Attorney Bob Southard. Because on Zoom, Bob Southard, loosely paraphrased, said, it's been a while since I reviewed this. I'm not prepared to give you a direct answer here tonight. I'll have to read it. Now, this is third reading. What's that like to hear as a city council member when a peer, Joe Shumway, has asked a pretty important question? Another senior council member, and Pat Gabriel, interjects their understanding, and another peer, Erin O'Doherty, gives her input. But you sit there, what was that impact to you, Brandon?
I don't remember that comment. I do remember we should have courage, because the very next day on social media, that was it seemed like everywhere on social media. As I think I had wrote down something about it could go on the ballot just in my notes, but I truly don't remember. I've always said, like, if we ask staff a question and they don't know the answer, why are we voting on it then? Why can't we move it to a different meeting, right? Why can't we, like, oh, well, this is a really important question. Let's see if we can move this down to the next meeting and
tabling matters is something's done in midstream of public given comment.
Yeah.
You guys had a legal question that wasn't even answered.
Yeah, and then so moving forward, kind of the same thing happened in a roundabout way. It is on the agenda, so the city
the
staff,
upcoming agenda.
It is on the agenda on the upcoming agenda. I haven't seen it obviously, but the mayor and vice mayor both have made comments about it. So I know it's the last the last item on the agenda as of right now. But I was like, hey guys, in city staff, we need to get rid of this. We need to rescind it. Let's get it off our books. We're not losing anything, right? With the money that we've spent, it's not like
the investment of an engineer technician hired might stand with some supplemental staffing time in the city of Laramie, might stand as the only investment, of which it's interesting, no notation to my recollection was mentioned to the cost of that technician.
I think we have.
Do you know what the designation of
I think we have
payroll was for that?
I don't know. I don't remember the budget because I remember voting against that too. I think we have 4 employees that work on the surface water management program fee, whatever the heck it's called. So that is an investment. And if this passes, where do those 4 employees go? What do we do with them? Right? There's some backlog there that we need to figure out. But we don't lose the data that the consultant gave us. It's not like we're just taking all that money and putting it on a table and lighting it on fire. What it does is it creates opportunity for the new council, with the 4 new council members
the
on
2025 membership.
Right.
Okay.
To sit down, let's write something out. Let's find the weakness. We can start with what we already have, right? But as we're writing this, because I don't see it being a 2 or 3 month process to kind of fix some of these items.
Well, previously, city staff mentioned working on it 4 years.
Yeah, so it's been a while.
Aaron O'Doherty recalled 2 years working on it.
Since I've been on council, and that's been 3 years now. I remember it as a thing then. So it's not like all that data goes away. We invested in it. We can use it, and I think
how does the city prioritize a surface water management program over parking, which probably was, prior to last night, was the highest attendance, May 7th, 2024, downtown Laramie parking rises to the forefront of concern in the city of Laramie. And we still haven't addressed that problem. We didn't make an offer on the Landmark Square property. That's been in December 2024, I understand, purchased by Stencil Group.
Stencil Group owns
and that's no longer owned by John Guerin with Ryan Bolton as owners of that together. Therefore, we have conversations including, let's survey what we could do with the depot green space. Let's survey what we can do with alternate spaces. Is that known to you to be an effort to basically circumvent the historic downtown lobby's interest in retail parking downtown, therefore paving the way for an apartment complex per se to come into Landmark Square, as they're looking to go forward with something that we have leased until 2042 in a 50-year renewable lease situation?
So, and I don't remember the time frame, but I know we asked city staff to reach out, and by the time we heard back from city staff, that lot was already sold. So now, with looking at the depot lot and kind of what we can do there, what we can do along, what is that, 1st Street or 2nd Street?
Far more enjoyable to have a brewfest on concrete than green grass.
And the good part is, from what I think we have directed staff of what we would like to see, I don't see a lot of the green space going away. So kind of that parking lot there, how it does like a weird, I don't know, I would call it like a hockey
with the
park.
configuration, it accommodates some other considerations.
Right. squaring that wad up. So we would lose some. And then you probably lose some of those cottonwoods. But we did get a report saying some of them really need to go anyways. There's some sickness.
They're aging out.
There's some sickness in a couple of them. And you're correct. There's, I think some of them are, the lifespan of those are like 50 years to like 75 years. And
It's a
some
great
of them,
life if we don't weaken.
Right. Right.
It's a great life if we don't weaken.
Well,
it's not easy considerations.
It's not. It's really not.
And one of the things that came out of the May 7th meeting was Stencil Group representative says, oh, wait a minute. And this is following the whole consideration being voted down to abate the agreement, to terminate the agreement, valid till 2042. Whoa, wait a minute. I thought this was a done deal. To which city staff immediately respond, there were no assurances made, and no such thing existed. Yet, here we are again. It doesn't lead to community trust so high as it could have been had that comment not been made by an external out-of-state contractor.
Yeah.
That's not something that in business you would generally make.
No.
Open meeting, recorded meeting. It's not a statement you would make if it were not valid. What ethical investigation did City Council call into study following that?
Nothing that I'm aware of, to be honest.
Should we have?
Yeah, maybe. It was concerning. I did like how, obviously, and I think personally, because I know, like, city staff can't really promise stuff because it does come to council and council can change it. So I don't, like, was the conversation, like, was that comment concerning?
Votes? Yeah. How many votes, honestly though, how many votes come and go against city staff recommendation in your tenure as council member?
More go for it than against it.
Yeah. I mean, more likely than not, a 51%
right.
for sure support city staff. Now, city staff are hired to do specific jobs, and as such, it's not so surprising to me. What is surprising to me is when we have glaring situations where during the month of June in 2024, city staff didn't have budget packets complete for city council review timely to vote. And I believe you are an outstanding council member speaking to, I can't vote on this. I just received this. Budget matters. Here we come in December 3rd, third reading, and city attorney is not prepared to advise council on the question of legitimacy, calling for a vote from the electorate or a vote in city council to prevail and supersede any ballot initiative.
So I think, our staff does.
Are we holding accountable? Are we holding staff accountable?
I think we do. Now, the staff make mistakes just like the rest of us. Obviously, they do as well, right? I think on that budget, I think you're talking about the Main Street and partnerships when it comes to those. So those packets, I think I was only one of 3 council members maybe who didn't look it over right before the meeting, and I might be making that number up, but it was pretty slim, because I have a full-time job. I usually try to look at the packets over the weekend, kind of dive into the packet on Saturday and Sunday, and then that way I'm ready for it. But then when you see something missing like that, and then it automatically pops up, that's like, all right, well, I can't vote on this, right? And I think I've had to do that a couple times, which is okay because I've been on council for 3 years and some change, something like that. 2 years and some change, whatever it is.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, so not a problem. Not a big deal when it comes to that. And then I kind of see. I think if we ask city staff a question like that, and they don't know the answer because it has been 4 years, and kind of it goes along with the rescinding part of it on this next agenda. I reached out to city clerk to figure out what I needed to do, who then put city manager and city attorney into the email chain. And so I wrote it out, and then it was told to me that we've never rescinded an ordinance before since our city attorney. So he would have to go back and do some research. So I get that. And if it's been 4 years since they started it, and
well, I understand researching something that would be on first reading next Tuesday.
Right.
I don't have the lenience of understanding third reading and not having all of our ducks in a row after 2 years, specifically noted by Council Member O'Doherty, and 4 years collectively in the city bouncing this around. And we just increased the pay for performance of a city attorney who we litigated against the wrong entity in a rental matter, and it turned out kind of badly for the city to not look so prepared or competent when it comes to pulling the right litigants into court.
Part of that, I think, what you're talking about, I think part of that's that how that ordinance is written too, because
sloppily written.
We interchange, and we being the city, and me, I'm part of that, right?
So am
I. Sometimes it says owner, sometimes it says landlord. So I hope. I think I've heard that's getting worked on, so that can be fixed. I have a question, and it's not a question that will get an answer, but I think, and actually it's not even a question, it will be a statement. I can't put all that blame on the city attorney either, right? Because council had 3 readings, and how come council didn't ask that reading the first time or the second time? And I know Joe was gone the second time, but like I kind of feel like as council, maybe we weren't as prepared either.
Well, so you bring up a great point, and a powerful point made last night by one citizen was, why does our community, why are we last minute Laramie? Why do we not come out for this or for that? But yet, this spokesperson ignored the fact that at least 2 of the focus group members were present with respect to the surface water management program. I cannot be more thankful, grateful, and appreciative of, I believe his name's Tom Mattamore.
Mr. Mattamore.
And Mr. Mattamore he's so calm, he's so collected, and he speaks with a candor, confidence, care, commitment, and he had the courage to show up. He didn't disappear. He didn't fall into the weeds. He didn't say it's your deal. I served my point. I gave him my viewpoints. You ignored them. No, he did come back on last night, and he said, "I told you so."
He came back at the work session too. He was there at the work session and gave us a handout.
He was at a 2.5 hour work session.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate that.
Yeah.
We have in our midst fabulous neighbors. And that's one of those great selection, because an individual who will not only attend, be diligent, treat it with the utmost importance. It's been here decades, guys.
Yeah.
He's one of those that when these people talk, you just want to shut up and listen.
And yeah, trust me, I'd pick his brain all the time. Anytime I can sit down and just have a 5-minute conversation with him, I learn something. And I think last night, even though 99.9% of it was about surface water, right?
Yeah.
It seemed like everybody, that's what everybody was there for. They all got their bills. They all saw the fee. So we kind of knew that was going to happen. I appreciate the mayor, vice mayor, council, and city staff for recognizing that and stopping city staff from presenting, and let's just open it up to the public to give them more time. But I did learn other items from that meeting last night too, right? There was a couple gentlemen say, like, we don't have the internet, so I can't get on there and appeal.
Yeah.
Which means
You don't have a form?
they haven't seen our
What's a QR code?
Yeah. Which means they haven't seen our social media, which means they haven't ever seen anything that
The
we
ripple
put
effect.
out there.
Yeah, the ripple effect.
They also made the statement, well, we don't own the newspaper here anymore, so I don't read it.
It's 3 days late was one comment
Yeah.
that comes out.
So now I have a big note in my notebook that says find another way. And what that means is, and I think we do an okay job, but obviously there's other ways that we need to be putting out, like, hey, we have a meeting Tuesday. We have this, whether it's in the bill, we send it in the bill. I know we're trying to do things outside the box, right? But I think we have to kind of brainstorm on what else we can do for those citizens, especially, the ones that don't have social media, don't read the paper, really kind of live their life, and how do we reach those kind of people? And that was brought up last night, and it really wasn't brought up until he was like, well, I didn't know about this until I got my bill. And I think a couple people of them said that. So that's something that I put on my to-do list per se.
There was a big wow when last night, for me, I heard individuals, not one, but maybe 4, speak to city planning department requirements to build, recommending and requiring, going so far as to require and not give occupancy permits without having, in one case, a retention pond, which helps alleviate flood matters. And they're being billed in this heavy-handed funding program that didn't go in front of the voters, but went and bypassed voters. And statute 1610-105 section E was quoted, and that paraphrased says you can adopt a utility fund. Statute gives the city, as Mayor Harrington said, the opportunity to create that fund. And you were more specific in giving 3 additional ways that those could be created. I'm not as definitive on that as I am the known research of 1610-105 section E, which calls for the electorate to be given the opportunity to vote on. It's not a matter of courage, Councilman O'Doherty. It is a law. It is a statute actively on the books, not to be bypassed. And the public is watching. And as more people come together and bring this matter forth, I respect the courage that it takes you for being one of the leaders in considering rescission of this and putting that forth in a business way going forward. But retention ponds, being taxed on retention ponds, it seems that the city was quite heavy-handed in lobbying any tax possible. They just went for the max, and they didn't give much credible tolerance. We've got packed dirt as an impervious surface. We've got decks with 10-penny cracks in decks counted as impervious surfaces. We've got lots that are 3,000 square feet, and 100% of those lots are being taxed in residential areas. Residential areas that the city, every one of the city council members seems to, at one point or another, have supported an affordable housing aspect. A businessman's mentality, a business person having the opportunity to succeed in having a business, growing a business, developing a business, operating in the city of Laramie. Recruitment of our population has not changed in 3 decades. We are still at or about what we were 30 years ago. Yet city staff have increased 6 times in the city planning department alone. 6 full-time position expansions from 2021 on.
Yeah, my opinion on that, I have a couple. The first one is, and this is obviously I'm not speaking for anybody else on council, and some members will probably say
the opinions
that
and
I'm
perspectives,
wrong. Right.
The opinions and perspectives presented here on the Talk Shop today are those of Brandon Newman,
right,
and exclusively Brandon Newman and Eric Henderson.
Right. This doesn't show that council is pro-business, in my opinion, and like you just said, my opinion only. A $4,000 bill every month, that's 2 people's salary at WildTech for a paycheck. So that's 2 paychecks, maybe up to 3, as I was talking to Jim the other day. And then some of the, like we were talking about, some of the other ones the same. And I think part of that no vote was there's really no, like, people keep talking about the appeal process and the credits, right? Well, the credits are for businesses, so they can go appeal it, right? And if you have a retention pond,
how convenient.
But it's the process, right? And I don't even think a lot of those businesses know that there's an appeal process. If you don't jump, like if you get the flyer in the mail, and like if you don't click that QR code or go to the website, you're not going to know. If you go click on the link and then it says the appeal and then you go do all that, right? WildTech has 2 retention ponds that was required to put in. So we hold a lot of our water, I would say almost all of our water on our property. Same with the snow. We push the snow into the retention ponds. So, those kinds of things, but in a small business, and WildTech's kind of not a small business anymore, but some of the ones that we're talking, who has the time to sit down and do this? Like, and these guys have a retention pond, right?
And full transparency, the appeal form, not easily found, not even available 30 days in advance of the July 1st implementation.
And there's nothing for residential, right?
And there was, click on your map. Who intuitively knows to click on their map in order to find an appeal form below it? Now, that seems like innovation and creativity right up until you realize that the gentleman who spoke and said, "I don't have a computer," weighs in. Now, did the city look out for that person? Nope. We force square pegs into round holes.
Not council. I think they can go to city staff. Don't
And
quote me on that.
You also can probably access one on the library, the public library.
But that takes time
Total
too,
convenience,
right?
right?
It takes time to. So I don't know. That's kind of why I wish we would start over. And it's not start over. It's let's get this off the books for right now. I think the most used word last night was tax, and with that word was put it on a ballot, right? And that's what I've talked to a couple. Let me clarify what I just said. When I say I talk to a couple, I do not backdoor politic. You will not see me politic off the air, anything like that, right? So any of the council members that I've talked to have came to me. And Matt was one of them. Matt said last night he was going to second the motion when it was made.
Said it in open
and I think
meeting.
him and I are on the same board that this should go in front of the people. Yeah, 9 of us represent the people. So we do make tough decisions, and we make tough decisions pretty weekly, right? Some of those are pretty hard to make. You've probably seen me stumble, when they call my name, I'm like, I don't know, actually, okay, I better do this, right? It's a pretty hard decision, but I think this is a hard decision and it's not, we're passing it to the citizens. What do we got? 32,000 people here in Laramie. That's 32,000 people who are going to make this decision, not 9.
And it's a legitimate legal requirement by 1610-105.
I've reached out to some legislators, and I have a list of a couple that I'm going to email today too, because I kind of want their opinion, because and I hate, and you find this everywhere, right? Because that one says it has to go in the vote. The one before that says the city we can start a utility fund, and I don't like when state statutes or city ordinances contradict each other, and that's kind of what it sounds like this one is doing, right? Because in the way that you read it, you could read it one way and I could read it a different way, and I'm like, well, this is what it says, and you're going to say, well, no, this is what it says. So,
and in serving the public, it says exactly what City Council view of public comment was on December 3rd, 2024. 6 were in favor, 3 were against the priority of a surface water management program. I would say, just estimating, that at or above half of the room were open to discussing and considering some fee, some adoption, because surface water management is a concern. Look, we're overbuilding properties that were platted in the 1800s with an underwater drainage area, which that public comment has been put out personally since October 2021 in West Laramie. And essentially ignored, because we went from having population in a 3 city block plat of maybe 12 in a family to potentially 48 overnight.
Yeah.
With 96 vehicles and collateral licensed rigs, trailers, RVs, all considered right there in this little neighborhood, where it's not going to be built like and similar to the buildings around it. And West Side is, in this case, on consideration for a historical overlay, and this and that. Nothing gives protection against city council employing city planning to adopt universal development code year after year without any revisions or striking any sections, because they're not directly applicable to Laramie, Wyoming. They're not conducive by perfect fit here.
I think there are 5. I don't remember the number, but it is a work session. I don't know if it's been. I don't think it's been scheduled yet, but I think the mayor, and then at the time Mayor Harrington, wanted it. Since then, I think a few of us have added our name to it. I just added my name onto it, because getting out and talking to some of those builders, it's very important that we do talk about it, right? And obviously I'm not from here, so I didn't quite understand some of the challenges those guys were going through. But now that I do, it's okay, yeah, we really need to talk about this. I was talking to one last night after the meeting, and he brought up some good points. So hopefully that's something that we can get on the book soon, and we can really start to hammer down so we can get some of this affordable housing talk started and the building code started.
One of the points you made earlier was that 99% of the folks that were in attendance last night were there about surface water management program and their reactions and their ideas and their considerations. One important visitor and attendant to the meeting, the last two meetings, was an individual who identifies himself as homeless. And he asks the question, and though I didn't understand all of his perspective, essentially he identifies himself as homeless and asks the question point blank to city council. And that is this: how can you make decisions like this one that increase the difficulty of me having a roof over my head in inclement weather? And in his life, inclement weather, cover over his head during inclement weather all seasons, was a tent, literally a tent. Now, that didn't get answered by city council. Didn't get. I will say it was treated extremely respectably, I believed, by Vice Mayor Micah Richardson in the previous work session. That full work session, I believe, and I witnessed Micah Richardson making the time as personally committed to that individual to hear them and to give that citizen extra time to convey.
Yeah, and she kind of did it last night too.
And I think it was to some degree respected, but his question essentially still not answered.
I am unaware of the tent situation that he's talking about. I'm sure, just like most towns, like you can't just pop a tent up in a public park or anything like that, right? So.
Well, certainly it's prohibited between the hours of midnight and 5 a.m.
Right.
To prohibit tent cities
right.
and so forth.
Yeah. And the comment of how do you make this, vote that affects this other thing. I don't know if I'm prepared to answer that question, but
I don't expect that you necessarily would be, Brandon. But wasn't it impactful?
I wrote it down, but then I started thinking, like, every vote we make impacts everything, right? And I know
but we're not talking about what we have for breakfast. This is fundamental question. And
there's a few things.
I'm for full transparency. I want the public to know, if you watch the video, you will see interjection, albeit out of order, made. Get a job. The insensitivity or the sensitivity, there's a wide spectrum of it, and I think that comes from economic pressures hitting everybody.
I agree. Yeah.
And I think that wasn't so much insensitivity as it was expression of personal stress as well, coming out from another strata of our economic spectrum. Fifth Tuesdays, valuable?
I love them. I thought when I ran for council, I wanted them back.
Yeah.
I love them. And I really love that we packed the house. I wish it was over more than one topic, but
it'd be nice to know the attendance threshold so that everybody could be accommodated.
Yeah.
One such area is to hold it at 406 Ivinson, and you have more than 100 in overflow that can be accommodated, seated, good volume on audio. Nobody is too quiet or too loud. everything is moderated technically to provide that opportunity. Zoom opportunities exist. A lot of benefits in that, but I also appreciate the city's got another purpose, and that is to explore the city, to make the city aware, citizens aware of other areas and so forth. That's neat too. And I like the multiple goals being
moving
effort.
them was to make sure that people in West Laramie who
proximity, right?
Right. So then
feel valued.
Yeah. Then now the next time it's going to be over in East Laramie somewhere, and moving those around so we can get more people there.
And I like that when you have a quorum. I like that as a city council elected official, you get paid. I appreciate, because I don't believe in 17 cents an hour. I don't believe in that. And I know that that's what it comes down to. Closer to 17 cents an hour than minimum wage. But I never want to hear from a city elected official, Eric, I have 4 jobs. Because I didn't hear that from one city council member's campaign. I never heard that from one making the statement, vote for me. I've got 4 jobs and you're my 5th consideration. And yes, of course, you'll be number 1 sometimes, but not always. And obviously, it'll be arbitrary and capricious, perhaps, when I do make this, because arguably, if I have so many other priorities, maybe I should step aside. Maybe I should not do what I told the community I wanted to do for this community.
Yeah, I can't speak to that and I don't.
You didn't make that comment.
Yeah, I did not. I don't want to know who made it. I try to respond to everybody. There are emails that I don't respond to. There's text messages and phone calls that I probably don't respond to, but I try. And I guess it comes down to the person too, right? I'm the type of person that if I'm not busy, I'm not happy. And I think you've made a couple comments, like, when are you going to stop? Because I'm like all over the place, it seems. My wife does it all the time too. She's like, you think you're going to take a break? I'm like, no, I think I'm going to go do this next thing now. And like, I'm the type of person that if I'm not busy, and the money part of it, I remember that was a conversation when we were talking about the 5th Tuesday, right? Should counselors get paid? Should we not? It's going to raise the budget, whatever the heck it raised it, $4,000 or $8,000, whatever it was. I don't remember.
Listening. Yeah. I think public comments being listened to and dialogue going in between. Yeah. That's something that's completely precious.
Yeah. Because I didn't care about the money.
All too often, city council have not given public comment its due. Take the billboard initiative. The billboard initiative, Philip Gabathuler made 50-minute presentation. City council can interject questions and comments anytime they like, essentially, through the mayor. And public, we wait. Lamar Advertising Council, they're a direct party to the conversation. They take 20 minutes, 15 legitimately, and then maybe 5 minutes of question and answer between dialogue between counselors. No public comment allowed in that segment after either one of those. Another pure example that directly comes to my mind was that of gambling in the city of Laramie, where long presentation was made by not only a state representative for that endeavor in the state from Casper, I believe they zoomed in, but another timely, because it was mid-June and the Wyoming Association of Municipalities had a spokesperson that was not only putting a chip in for the WAM conference in Cheyenne, but they were also interjecting on the matter of entertainment purpose gambling. And At no time was the public allowed to ask questions, the public allowed to interject until beginning and end, bookends to the meeting. Now, that is not to say that we didn't have an opportunity to give our 3 minutes, but it wasn't like, it's not as interactive and clearly not as valued as other. Now, I've seen some agenda developments that have shown public comment, black and white, on the agenda, written in. And I think in one agenda I actually saw it bold, and therefore not to be missed, not to be forgotten, not to be overlooked. And I appreciated that. I felt in some regard, council's listening. It's not easy. They're invested in this. There's a lot of considerations going on, and kudos, and thank you.
I don't think any counselor
if that goes that way
would say they're not engaged, and I don't think.
Well, it's not politically friendly to
right.
say that.
And I think that we do get a lot of emails, so sometimes we don't respond to them all, right? And I think we all value public comment. I have been kind of going along with what you just said. I value public comment more than staff comment on some items, right? Because staff presents me whatever the heck we're talking about. And I'm trying to, within Robert's rules and within our procedures, and obviously our procedures can outrule Robert's rules, because there are times when you guys have public comment, you come up and you ask a question, right? And that question, according to our procedures, doesn't get answered. Like, it can't. And there are times that, and I've done this, and I think a couple other counselor, I'm probably the one that has done it the most. Like, hey, that's like point of order. Like, that's out of order. Like, you can't do that, right? So I'm trying to decide on how and how to bring this forward to council. Of, I think city staff should present X amount of time, right? And then right after city staff presents, I think council should ask clarifying questions, and then I think the public should be able to ask questions that city staff or council can answer, and then we go to comments from the city council. Because there are times that you guys come up and you ask a question, and I'm like, I didn't think of that, or, well, that's kind of not how I read the ordinance. But if that's how you read the ordinance or the resolution, whatever it is, like, so I'm trying to decide, like, what's an easy way without making the meetings, super long with everything, to where you guys can still get your answers to your questions. Because right now it is out of order. You guys can come up, the way it's written, your comments are directed towards council and council only, and then so that's in the works in my brain. How that's going to work out, I don't know. I'm trying to look at like other cities and states to see what they do.
If you refer back, if anyone has the opportunity, the Talk Shop has a link directly to the December 3rd City Council meeting. And that in its entirety, at about 50 minutes into the piece, Pat Gabriel, council member in 2024 at that time, makes a classy acknowledgement following a citizen coming forward and making comment, but also injecting a question that would be really helpful for their understanding, their clarification. And following that citizen in their 3 minutes, leaving the podium, Councilman Gabriel says to Mayor, per your right as a council member, per Robert's Rule of Orders, totally within the frame, values that citizen's question and makes an immediate, calls a question to it immediately, puts it right on the floor for consideration. Yes, no, Mayor, I'd like that same question answered for me, for my purposes of understanding. Valued it immediately, and it got treated promptly. I thought that was all the example you need to see how to do it. I liken it to City Council, in my opinion, overusing consent agenda items section for business as opposed to open agenda, which allows for public comment. And on items, not every item gets requested to be removed from consent agenda. But yet in 100% of the items requested by citizen members, in this case, one citizen member,
I think it's been one that we haven't.
Both instances, on first night of consideration for something to be removed and on their last request, neither was even brought to the floor in the same fashion as Pat Gabriel did on December 3rd for Chris Stafford, I think it was, that night. And I thought, how interesting. How can you on one frame of mind say we value public comment, but not want to hear more from them? Now maybe they put it in comments and you felt like you'd seen it. But how often does public comment feed on other public comment? Does one idea generate a second idea or a third or perhaps importantly a fifth that might be the best suggestion of all? We don't get that if we don't entertain that too often. And I valued that effort by Pat Gabriel in the 2024 body of work that was done, because I thought it represented quite well the opportunity that all 9 of you have,
right,
to inject that. Not to say, and it's important to note, about 5-6 weeks ago, consent agenda item material spanned 5 pages of a 6.5-page agenda. So 5 pages were closed to public comment. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of consideration of expenditure not open for consideration on third reading or final reading or whatever. I mean, how important, looking back, is the third reading due diligence of the third reading to where we are today with the surface water management program?
I don't know if you remember, but we, I'm sure you do. We had this conversation of changing the agenda so the citizens can come up and ask to remove something from the consent agenda, and that was a couple months ago, maybe 4 months ago, something like that, whatever it was.
Time flies.
Yeah, whatever it was. In that whole conversation, what started the whole conversation was I brought to council saying we need public comment on consent agenda. And then it turned into, well, what if they want to come up and talk about 4 or 5 different things? I said, well, you still just make it to 3 minutes. You get 3 minutes to talk, and that way the meetings aren't till 11 if there's...
And constrict it to the item at topic. It must be on topic.
Yeah.
Gavel.
And then it was, well, I think that would go too long. So now how about they could pull it from consent agenda. And then it went to, well, why don't we make it a consideration so they can go up here and say, or they can email us and say, hey, pull this from consent agenda, whatever item XYZ, right? And then it's up to council whether or not to pull it. The 2 instances that you were talking about, I emailed the person and let them know why I wouldn't pull them, and let them understand, and forwarded probably an email that I got from city staff, saying here's the background of why this is on the consent agenda, XYZ, blah blah blah. So I can't speak for everybody, but I pulled a couple. I pulled one last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. I think that Mr. Glass asked about, and so we did pull that one to talk about it and let him know, like, here's it is, right? So,
well, it certainly shows value to the citizens when you take that action.
Yeah.
When you make that effort, when you take those minutes, and I think that all too often we have the time to go back and redo something, but we don't make the time to do it right in the first place. And that is, to me, the surface water management program in a nutshell. But one other interesting comment, in addition to the homeless on affordable housing, I sat there thinking, on or about February, I went to the podium and I advised council that I had learned that Downey Hall was slated to be closed in the fall of 2024 or 2025 when the North Hall or South Hall opens.
Yeah.
Half of the 900 occupancy facility that will be on 15th Street across from the cemetery in the old footprint of Weil Hall. And I was responded to by City Council directly from Mayor Cumbie that I should direct my ideas to the University of Wyoming. Well, this is a case directly where I point to you as elected officials are far and away the liaisons that I expect to navigate and negotiate very important matters like, why is Orr Hall closed? Why do we have any homeless? Let me exact this. Why do we have Downey Hall was built in the 1950s, 1960s to accommodate 384 residents by design, according to the University of Wyoming Residence Life web pages. Now, this is back February 21st-ish of 2025. And I look to this man and I sit there thinking, there's an obvious answer to this, folks. We must timely consider the repurposing of space, especially when it responds to human decency of a roof over somebody's head at any price, of any rent, because some rent is obviously more valuable. And, you know, I was a part of Residence Life program when 96 paraprofessionals ran the student life housing area when 6 residence halls were fully operational. I know it's doable. I was involved with Wyotech Housing when 24 buildings across 11 separate areas of Laramie were brought together, and we charged less than $250 a bed per month to students to go to. Now, if the University of Wyoming made the consideration of $250 a head, this gentleman might have housing and not need a tent.
Yeah.
And I look to the letter I received from Mayor Cumbie and I say, perhaps it's time that we elect a mayor. Perhaps it's time that we consider electing a mayor who will advocate when it's not comfortable. When you're an adjunct faculty member, researcher at the University of Wyoming, it might not be as comfortable for you to advocate fully because you have a matter that you might be more comfortable recusing yourself from consideration. and putting it back on the public when it's convenient to fight their own battles.
I know there's a petition out for it, so
For an elected mayor?
there is. Yep.
Well, it's certainly a matter. It was brought up, I believe Tim Hale brought up last night, that if we have an elected mayor scenario, then we can vote you out for not listening to us. And I found a lot of the comments were pointed, but were not invalid. And I thought, as this individual had no home last night, I thought of Orr Hall closed for more than a year. I thought of Downey Hall closing in this coming fall. McIntyre Hall planned to be closed in December of this fall, going into the spring, as North and South Hall will both potentially be open at that time with a new dining facility, which means a limited utilization of Washakie Dining Hall, a split of staffing going in this way. But yet we're not having conversations of influence with this sovereign body, which is an island of its own. They can have we can have a signage ordinance that says no billboards, and they can have the premier lighted Las Vegas comparable lighting situation at 23rd and Grand, and be on a most magnificent gateway, Marion H. Rochelle Gateway Center, and the city allows it because it's permitted by statute.
By the right, and I know that's going to be in the comp plan to figure out what we could do with billboards, and that's a whole nother subject we could talk about for another hour. But I thought the mayor, and maybe I'm wrong, and I'm going to follow up with you, because I thought the mayor sat down with President Seidel and kind of discussed some of the housing, and I thought that happened. So I'm going to reach out to her, and then I will follow up with you, because I could have swore something happened there, but it's most memorable. It's one city council meeting was most memorable to me, because LCCC President Schaefer spoke and didn't answer my question regarding Albany County housing initiatives rising to a level of care given to Laramie County housing for LCCC students. And I was out of order in follow-up question being attempted for the President Schaefer to answer my question. What's happening in Albany County? Because knowing that Downey Hall and Orr Hall were offline, that's 700 plus directly student-ready homes. And might that supply infuse possibilities for other rental pricing? Might it allow an adjustment to our market? I thought it would. I thought it could. There's something coming forward on the next agenda, and I don't know a whole heck of a lot about it. They reached out to me again last week, so I could sit down with them and kind of figure out going forward. But so some of that will be answered next week, and I don't want to ruin their surprise in that.
Yeah, don't pull back the veil too early.
Yeah, but there is something coming that they've been working on for a long time with and I'm going to call it the wrong thing, but like a housing coalition kind of set. But they finally have enough that they're going to come present to council on Tuesday. So
I'm excited. I look forward to the next council meeting with bated anticipation.
Right? Yeah.
One last comment come in from audience of the talk shop. Why, with the city of Laramie having such rich water resource, does the city of Laramie citizen pay so high a water fee, a water when we have the Monolith Ranch, we have the Bath Ranch, the Hart Ranch, whatever reference people want to make that would take us, per Brian Schuster's campaigning and previous service on city council, could care for Laramie for future 250 years. How is it that we paid like the fourth most expensive water price in the state or country? How is it that that's even possible? And how is it that Fox Run initiative for 700 homes doesn't rate being city hooked up to the city to allow development of 700 additional homes for a project that's right across from the Bath Ranch? This water supply that we have to use or lose. Why is that not part of the ranch management consideration? What, more than 50 minutes of presentation on 3 occasions, and not once part of the conversation to help alleviate affordable housing. Why is this city council not holding city staff accountable to some creative considerations that are generated by our direct public?
I think, personally, and this is my opinion, again, my opinion only, I think maybe we're leaning too much on the comp plan to come up with that, those answers, instead of...
A comprehensive plan already exists, does it
right,
not?
it does, but I think like the updated one, when it comes to that, I mean, I always question, like, what are we going to do with the ranches out there? What's the real plan? What are we going to do with the water? How can we make it more affordable to build across the street? Those kinds of things, right?
We like to study things, but we don't like to say, what would 700 additional homes, if we are more tolerant to what's needed to build and we're more accepting.
I think we have to have the building code conversation first, right? Because there's a lot of...
We don't in terms of the Landmark Square area. We don't have to have it. Existing building codes already exist.
But I think we need to, if you talk to some of those developers, right? They have problems now with that code, and they've had problems with the code, and it's making it to where it's not affordable for them. So we need to be having those conversations to say, we all know the price of lumber is up, the price of, whatever material is up. So how do we come up with plans to make that other things, the sewer, the water hookups, those kinds of things more affordable? And I know those conversations have started, but I think going forward, I push, and I want to keep pushing to make sure that we get that building code work session brought up and on the book, so we can start inviting some of those developers that maybe used to build here, or have spoke out at the meeting last night as a good example. 2 of them or 3 of them spoke out like, we just don't build here because it's not affordable because of XYZ. Well, we need to fix XYZ. We can't fix how much lumber is. We can't fix any of that, but I think we can try to fix some of the other stuff. And
we can give tax incentives to businesses like Homebase, reportedly in the neighborhood of 300,000, which is a lot of inventory consideration to come in and compete with local True Value, local Ace Hardware, existing businesses.
Correct.
We can do that, and we can do that fast.
Yeah.
And it seems that it's not consistent in that consideration. You don't have an easy job.
I don't.
I don't come to these things without great care and investment of your time at pennies on the dollar. I'll compare to my time where I am not paid to attend those. Correct. Whatsoever. Yeah. And I still find it important. I still find it engaging to ask the question. I'm called an agitator by at least a handful, but I ask questions that I believe are very fair, and I get stepped on by other media sources who don't invest the same time. They're privy to information that's not made public to all press, and those are matters of consideration that I hold dear in importance. and I'm very interested when, even on social media, the City of Laramie has engaged in threads that call about input from the public, and there's I have my injected comment. I'm slapped down because I put a commercial contact on it. Well, it's my understanding in media, appropriate media conduct is to identify your entity. Your contact information is not out of line, and no further clarification upon trying to clarify is given other than it's in our policy. Reviewed the policy, canvassed the policy, Googled the policy, and I don't find the language that prohibits what I did, but I still endeavor to persevere. Chief Joseph, one of my most important individual quotes come from Chief Joseph: endeavor to persevere. And I challenge that everybody can do that. I value your time today, Brandon, yeah. And in honor of your time, I want to give you a closing opportunity on anything that we've talked about, or go in another direction if you like. I'll
speak real quickly on what you just said. I think supporting any and every media outlet here in Laramie is really important, right? You have your following, the other media sources have their following. Some of them cross over, some of them don't. So being able to get out there and make sure that like everything is really broadcasted out to the city is very important. As far as editing it, I have no idea. I edit stuff all the time, so it's whatever. I guess my closing was I was just going to be a one and done kind of counselor. I'm not going to lie. When I ran, and I've said this on this broadcast before, that I didn't even think I was going to win, right? Being the new guy, but
you're from Kansas.
I am, and I make that reference a lot.
What do you know?
I make that reference a lot, but what I've seen in Kansas.
You still refer to Kansas as your home.
I do.
And I've heard some in the audience grumble that this is your home. Yeah. Represent this as your home.
And I do represent, and the funny thing is we went back to Kansas, and my wife and I both said, like, this isn't home anymore. And
Laramie's becoming hometown.
And we love it here, and we actually talked about, like,
your family's growing. Congratulations.
Right, yeah. And that's great, right? And then, but what I'm seeing is the stuff that Kansas is dealing with is the stuff that is coming here. So when I reference Kansas, it's like, oh, for example, I've heard that our and this is coming from citizens here, our rec center prices are too much. I jump on Facebook this morning before I come here. There's a petition in our hometown to lower the rec center prices in my hometown back where we're from, right? And I'm like, so what I'm seeing there will come here sooner or later. So I reference Kansas all the time because it's like, we've seen this, you guys haven't yet, or maybe you're starting to see it. Here's what they've tried. We probably shouldn't try that here because it was like, $1 million wasted there. So, yeah, we chuckle at that too, and I know I reference Kansas all the time, and that's fine.
Well, you have to find some comfort in being up front and being on camera 100% of the time.
Right.
Being on mic most of the time.
Yeah.
It's pressure.
It is what it is. But yeah, I said I was going to be a one and done, and the amount of people who have came to me and said, please don't, is heartwarming to me. And apparently I'm doing something right. What that is, sometimes I don't even know. So last week we as a family sat down and did decide that I will be running again. So you'll see some signs popping up next year. We're going to try to stay on council for 4 more years and see what we can get accomplished.
If electing a mayor were on the horizon, and the only way I understand that an elected mayor could, the most immediate way for the city of Laramie to open itself to an elected mayor scene would be for existing city council members to bring it to the floor, hold the appropriate number of readings and considerations, but they would need one city council member and a second would need to move for the adoption of an elected mayor system. Now that's the most that's the most direct, that's the most immediate way for that to happen. Otherwise, a petition, as you mentioned, is that may or may not be out there. You have witnessed the petition yourself?
I've heard of it, yeah.
I've heard talk of it, but I have not seen it.
I've not seen it either.
But in that, I only engage that if that's out there, I liken it to the property tax initiatives where I just ask legislators and I would ask city council, if that's out there, why not put it to discussion and bring the matter forward? If representing as elected officials is so important and so critical and valued by each one of you, then if 2 of 9 of you agree and author, why not bring it forward and have city staff work on that endeavor as one element, have the public give open comment across focus groups, city, and we have the time now. We have the time in order to do it a healthy, paced fashion, diligent, not overlooking something of critical importance. I'm not asking you on the spot to give your viewpoint or vantage point on that, but those are my 2 understandings, and I know it's possible. But if that elected mayor situation were one, would you, as one who was considered for appointment to be mayor this session, you didn't succeed in that, as Mayor Sharon Cumby was appointed, Vice Mayor selected Micah Richardson, would you put your effort towards being an elected mayor for the city of Laramie?
So, no surprise here, right? I said I would support a mayor system here in Laramie. I've said it a couple times, so that's not a support. But there's an asterisk next to that, right? It has to make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, or as you were just saying, if it's rushed, then we have a bigger problem, and I don't want that. I will make a statement that is a question that is hard to answer, and I can't even answer it, right? And it comes from the gentleman, Jesus, his name just popped out of my head, that spoke for it yesterday.
Tim Hale.
He said we would vote that mayor out, right? That was his direct statement. And I have a counter to that is a question. You have 9 counselors, hold them accountable. If you don't think that we're accountable right now,
that's 9 times as difficult.
Yeah, which I agree, but I think it could still be done, right?
Greatest message in handling the serpent, if you will, is to cut off the head.
I agree, yeah. But still, right? Like, if you think one of us isn't, if you think I'm not being held accountable, like, vote me out. I don't like
Caesar. Yeah. Caesar was stabbed in the back, right? By in the Ides of March.
To answer your question, would I run for mayor if it was just a mayor system? Short answer, no. Long answer, yes.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Short answer, no. I have a job, right? And I really love working at WildTech, and I really love what I do. And I love the politics side of city council as well. So the short answer would be no, because like I really love WildTech. I love what we do there. I've supported it since I was a student, it would be really hard for me to go into Jim's office and say, Jim, I'm going to run for mayor. And whether that's 2 years or 4 years or whatever that term looks like, I'm going to have to step away. However, could I have my job back in 4 years or 8 years or whatever that is, right?
President Jim Mathis, probably having served on the University of Wyoming trustees.
He's still on there, yeah. And he's only CEO now. We do have a new president.
Okay.
Yeah, Kyle,
right.
Kyle Morris took over a couple of years ago. But
thank you for that correction. I would say there'd probably be a very finely tuned understanding of what you're going through in that consideration.
I just talked to him a couple days ago, but it would be really hard for me to have that conversation. But would I do it? Yes. And the long answer to that yes would be enough residents would have to come and talk to me. They would have to come and ask for that to happen. So
you got to be wanted.
They're already asking me to run again, so that's why we decided we're going to. But
so how important, I wanted to give you the last word, but how important is the ward structure to how the city council operates? Do you feel like grouping, I love the Fifth Tuesday growth. I love to see the maybe 20 that attended the first one, over 100 attempting to hit the hot box and be there for the duration of an hour and a half with City Council in the Fifth Tuesday second edition.
Yeah, I don't know how many we had there. It
was
a lot.
Much greater number.
Oh yeah.
Much greater passion, much greater earnest with respect to it. Even one one self-identified New Yorker that's finds their home today in Laramie, Wyoming. They weren't accusatory; they were passionate. And
every time I talk to that gentleman, it's like I feel like he's yelling at me, but I know he's not.
and in any event,
yeah,
wonderful turnout. Thank you to the City of Laramie for having the Fifth Tuesdays, bringing those back, engaging in the public dialogue on this matter and others, and I thank you for making time on the Talk Shop. The opportunity is every elected officials, is every city staff members, is every citizen to talk, to listen, and to learn on the Talk Shop, with the Talk Shop, right here. Radio works at mail.com. Our phone number, 307-460-3087. It's no joke. It's the mission of 93.5 that no one is socially isolated. No one is disenfranchised. And that, my friends, can only happen when you have an open forum.
And I will happily come sit down with any of those guys,
when you have that opportunity. And Brandon Newman, Councilman Newman, WildTech instructor Newman, you lead the pack when it comes to not only this year in attending and making time to join us on the Talk Shop, but sadly, you, Micah Richardson, are the only two to make it in Studio 255 in 2025. 7 months time. You're the only two council members to make at least one interview on the Talk Shop. I find that to be awesome in that you and Micah Richardson made that time to come in Studio 255. I find the care exemplary. I'm disappointed that 7 of 9 have not found their way, has not elevated to importance enough to value this media outlet as one to engage, ask questions, dialogue in between Fifth Tuesday opportunities, which to me has a perception of a greater bare minimum. Whatever I have to do to get by, go along, get by without doing, perhaps is my preferred path. Now, I understand time is precious, but radio is word of mouth on steroids. Videography now adds an element of shareability, accountability, and verifiability that I believe is upholds a higher level of integrity. and importance. And to me, that validity, just by the simple attendance alone, viewership has topped 55,000 viewers weekly on social media for the Talk Shop this past December. In November, 53,000 weekly. That is not a light number of viewers. You compare that to print media, you compare that to other media. I don't know what they have, but I know what the Talk Shop has built in 8 years, and I thank you for being a part of that content expansion. I also give credit to Mayor Sharon Cumby, who availed herself to interview, and Melanie Vigil and Joe Shumway, each making an appearance on the Talk Shop interviews on location July 4th during Freedom Has a Birthday, and June 4th at the Ivinson Memorial Hospital grand opening of that dedication of that entry, where you and Sharon Cumby both spoke with the Talk Shop in comments regarding that important endeavor in our community. I think that, so it's not 7 of 9. It's actually half.
Yeah.
It's actually, to me, but to not have 100% come in on a open invitation, I wish there was a different vantage point and perspective and value given to media and what social media can do. And I think that the man's comment where he didn't have his computer was in the palm of his hand, and some opportunities not availing themselves. Safety, public safety. It took 14 days to get a response from City Council regarding my inquiry on public safety matters, and that to me is a question that falls through the cracks when it takes 2 sessions in order to get a public safety question addressed.
Is that the siren question?
It was following the tornado that was in Albany County, but it wasn't close enough to trigger sirens and system. My question was, what systems are relied upon in the city? Not one city council member answered me in 7 days. Upon 7th day following that city council meeting, I asked that question again, and I immediately got response from you and at least one other city council member referring me, as I expected previously. Hey, if you don't know, guide me.
Yeah.
Refer me. I only want to get out the best information possible through this outlet. So thank you for being a partner to that. But we can do better.
We can.
In what ways can we both do better?
Yeah.
We have to communicate about and decide how we can collectively do it. I thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thanks for having
most
me.
valuable. Today, not possible without the support of Chano's Village, Perkins Restaurant and Bakery, Laramie Range Ford, and so many others like I-80 Towing and Automotive Services. Jersey Mike's providing our in-studio guest a complimentary 1 free catering box for coming in. And also, who can't enjoy the free sweet cookie of McAllister's? And I know in your way, as you're donating your income for city council services to nonprofits, I know these are probably not going to be enjoyed by you, but will be enjoyed by maybe a student, perhaps a designee, perhaps a volunteer, somebody to recognize. And I just thank you again for attending the Talk Shop here this morning.
Yeah, thanks.